Revenge films.
My name is Ken. My girlfriend Riley is 4 years older than me, and I met her when I was a senior at college while I worked part-time at a bookstore, and we started dating. I was the staff working there and she was the customer. Riley was the one who approached me first, but I was attracted to her pure but mature aura, and I quickly fell for her. We were getting along great. After I graduated college, I found a job and I was still in a nice relationship with Riley. But after my job was getting stable, Riley was 27 and she started to think about marriage. I was still 23 and it had still been 2 years since I got a full-time job, so I thought it was fast for me to get married. But she was the only one I wanted to get married to. So we decided to get married, and we agreed to go meet her parents sometime after discussing it with her. That morning I was very nervous. The reason was because I've never met her parents before. It turns out that her father loved her so dearly, and he was very strict. So when she wanted to introduce her boyfriend to her parents before... "I won't meet a guy who's not determined enough to get married to you." And he never took her seriously. So now that we were getting married, I was finally approved to meet her parents. After I went inside the house, I greeted them in the most respectful way possible. Then, as soon as I looked up... "You! How dare you ruin my daughter's purity!" I heard his voice, and the next thing I knew, his fist was in my face, and my body was blown away. My nose was bleeding, and because my head and back were slammed into the corner of the pillar, my back was hurt, and I was about to lose consciousness, and I was feeling dizzy. As I felt the pain destroying me, I couldn't process what had just happened. Huh? Was I just punched in the face? While I was in shock, Riley and her mother approached me asking,
"Are you all right?"
But I finally understood what was going on, seeing her father hovering over me with a demonic expression. And I really thought he was gonna kill me, so despite being barely conscious, I quickly left their house. I was so desperate I didn't even know how I managed to drive home. The only thing I knew was that my shirt I bought for this occasion had turned red with my blood. After I went home, I still didn't understand why I was punched in the face. When I got into my room, I took off my shirt that had turned red with blood, and I washed it with my hands, but the blood stains didn't come off, and I was so confused why I had to go through all this. As I washed myself in confusion and treated my wounds on my face, Riley contacted me. I was hesitant, thinking she might say something to me again, but I ended up answering the call. Then Riley said,
"Oh, are you home now? Listen, Dad said he'll forgive you now for hooking up with me. Good for you."
Huh? How was that good for me? I didn't understand what she was saying. And while I was in confusion, I was scared at the same time towards Riley, who dared to say that it was good for me in a normal tone after her father punched me in the face and I flew across the room. When I looked at myself in the mirror, my face had swollen because of the punch. What was so good about this? I was so confused. I was just punched in the face for no reason.
Huh? It's meaningful. Dad adores me, so he's forgiving you after giving you a single punch. He's kind, isn't he? And your wounds are like your medals of your achievements. You should be happier about it. It was really worth getting punched.
What are you saying? I got punched when I did nothing wrong. I'm obviously filing a victim's report.
Huh? What are you saying? You got punched in return for hooking up with me. You deserved that punch.
We're living in a modern era. How is punching someone all of a sudden something normal to do? Her father never even tried to apologize to me. I really couldn't handle Riley, who felt like this was what I deserved, just like what her father thought.
Hey, you have to be kidding. Filing a victim's report? What did Dad do to you? He forgave you just by giving you a single punch. What are you going to do if the victim's report affects his job?
As I listened to her, I got shocked at how thoughtless I was to decide to get married to someone like her. It's true that her father worked for a large corporation, and I remember hearing about him having a high position. But that wasn't my business. Riley kept saying something, but while I listened to her shrieks, my headaches were worsening, so I hung up to head to the hospital as soon as possible. When I was about to hang up, I heard her say,
"Don't go to the hospital."
but I obviously ignored her. After that, I got a thorough checkup at the hospital. Then the doctor told me, "You were lucky. If your wound was just a few centimeters to the right, you might have gotten disabled for the rest of your life." I felt chills behind my back. Riley and her father blamed me for taking away her purity and whatnot, but she still lived with her parents, so I thought I should follow their rules until we got married. So I always sent her home before her curfew, and we never had sleepovers together, and I was trying my best to cherish her in my own ways. But this was how I ended up. After that, just like I said, I sent the company a proof of content to sue Riley's father. This was an act of violence and one that I'll ask for compensation money for. A few hours later, Riley contacted me in a panic. According to what she told me, her father was getting transferred to a local branch in the countryside. His salary was cut to half of what he used to get, and once someone gets transferred there, they'll never be able to come back or move to another branch. And Riley blamed me for it. The more I talked with Riley, the more I hated her, and the more I was feeling calm. I didn't mind hating her because I was planning to break up with her, but it was emotionally tiring to see someone show their dirty sides of their personality.
Dad is being transferred to the countryside because of you. You better pay me $10 million for compensation. Dad would have made that much money if he kept his position.
She shrieked, but I responded. According to what the doctor told me, if the wound was a few centimeters to the right, I would have been disabled for the rest of my life. Why would I have to pay compensation money to your father who did something like this to me? I just did what I had the right to do.
You must be crazy. Your wounds are nothing compared to my dad's job transfer.
She shrieked, but I hung up ignoring her. After that, her father really did get a job transfer, and it looks like they were living in an expensive mansion because her father had a high salary, but they no longer had the money to live there, and they were kicked out after refusing to pay the rent. In the end, because he punched me, although I did nothing wrong and it risked my life, the amount of compensation money he had to pay me totaled up to a huge amount. So her family's savings were all gone, and using his salary that was cut to half of what he used to get, they'll pay me a fixed amount every month. I bet it'll be like living hell for Riley, who had been living an affluent life, but it was none of my business. But I really thought I made the right decision to break up with her. If I had gotten married to her before I realized how crazy they were, and if I found out in the middle of my marriage, it would have been too late. Thinking that way, I'm glad I got to realize that now. By the way, I heard that Riley moved into a small apartment with her mother after that, but they could no longer live their affluent lifestyle they were used to, and her father's salary was not enough to pay for my compensation money. So I heard that she had to sacrifice her own salary as well. If Riley had fought back along with me when he punched me in the face, staying on my side, maybe I wouldn't have broken up with her. I'd really had enough of dating and going to see my partner's parents. But if I ever meet someone who I want to get married to again, I hope her parents are sane and normal.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.